Hello and welcome to the Performers Who Pivot podcast, brought to you by your host Grace Francis. This podcast is for actors and performers who are navigating two careers at the same time. Maybe one performing arts career and one business to fall back on, or a business to have alongside your performing arts career, or perhaps you want to leave the performing arts industry altogether but don't want to retrain, so you are exploring how to progress using the skills you already have. Today's episode is sponsored by Dramed. Yes, that's my very own company sponsoring this episode.com. Hi everyone, it's Grace here. I hope you're well and your year is going from strength to strength. And if you don't feel like your year is going from strength to strength, I have a little poem that I'd like to share with you by Rupi Kaur. It goes like this. I am trusting the uncertainty and believing I will end up somewhere right and good. That's it, that's the poem. I am trusting the uncertainty and believing I will end up somewhere right and good. I'm really enjoying her poetry at the moment. I've got her book. It's called Homebody by Rupi Kaur. So yeah, if you don't feel like things are working out at the moment, then I hope that you are trusting the process. You're trusting that uncertainty. That's one of my reminders to myself, is trust the process. I am on my 7th episode of the Performers Who Pivot podcast today. For the 8th one, I'm going to record one just without a guest. I'm just going to update you on what's been happening on my world since I pivoted back into acting. But before we get started, I just want to give you a little disclaimer about this episode. I'm still getting used to podcasting. I don't think I really fully knew how to use my mic, and there was some interference in the beginning of this interview. It does get better, but I just wanted to let you know it's not going to sound as clear as this little section where I'm giving a little intro. Nevertheless, it's a really good conversation with Jordan Pitt. Jordan Pitt is an actor and an award-winning filmmaker with over 20 years experience both in front of and behind the camera. He launched One Umbrella Productions in 2011, premiering his first film, Lost Words, which was shot in the south of France at the Diversity in Cannes showcase the following year. In 2013, he released his second short film, Ambition to Live, which screened at various film festivals, the London Film Network Film Festival, where it picked up an Audience Choice Award, the Portobello Road Film Festival, BAFTA, and it was nominated for Best Short Film at the BEFFTAs. Most recently, Jordan directed and wrote What Would You Do, which screened at the BBC and BFI before launching on Amazon Prime. Most recently, it was selected to be a part of California's Newport Beach Film Festival. He also directed and produced Coffee, which has picked up Best International Film Award at the Wadadli Film Festival in Antigua and has participated in the S.O.U.L Festival. It was also shortlisted for the Lift Off Global Network Festival and most recently selected for the Bafta qualifying American Black Film Festival. Jordan is now in pre-production with a few new projects, which I'm not sure we get to hear in this episode, but he really does share his journey and it's just really useful to get an insight to how he works and operates. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. Welcome, Jordan. It's really lovely to have you on the podcast. It is really nice to actually be having a conversation because it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And just to say, do you know what? I'm so happy that obviously I've been kind of keeping tabs on social media and all that. But yeah, just to see you kind of attacking the performer world again, the entertainment world again. Yeah, man. I think I even said, because when we met, it was like we did a scene together, and I've always loved your energy. I've always labelled you as a powerful performer. Do you know what I mean? Little powerhouse. So yeah, I'm glad to see you return.
Thank you so much. And yeah, likewise, you've always been a very strong actor with a beautiful energy. And I, the same with social media, have seen you doing lots, it seems. You've been a powerhouse, a force behind the camera, in front of the camera. You've got your own podcast yourself. You've got your own production company, which we are going to get into, because I feel like some performers, a lot of performers actually, do quite well or have the intention of, if they're not going to be in front of the camera, they go behind camera. And that sounds easy, but I've come to learn that it's definitely not easy. It's a lot of work. And again, that sounds very competitive. Let me know if I'm I'm right or I'm wrong, but you've done that. You seem to be doing that quite successfully. You have got a few awards for the shows that you've produced, and you have a short on Amazon Prime now, and that got featured in the BBC.
It was in the BBC for an event that was taking place, Diversity in Cannes Showcase, which is an annual event, which based in Cannes, but they do a lot of events around the world. We're based in America, but the showcase happens in Cannes.
Can you start, first of all, can you give us a bit of an introduction? Can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you do in your words, and a bit about your background?
Yeah, I guess take you from the beginning. As you know, I started off with acting. I began as a child actor. So yeah, like my secondary school was a theatre school. I started off from 11. So through there, just working on. My first job was a theatre show, Oliver in the West End. And yeah, since then you're just kind of navigating through this performer world. And for me, it's no particular guidance. You're just kind of finding your way through. So by the time you get to an adult, I think my thing was to kind of exploring more film work, because it started off in theatre, especially over here. Like, film work wasn't necessarily big when we were growing up. So yeah, I remember my dad in my teens was always saying, always like pushing, saying, yeah, make your own stuff. Don't leave it in someone else's hands. But for me, I was like, look, I don't know nothing about cameras. Like, I don't want to be. I ain't got time to be learning anything about cameras. But it's funny because only a few years ago I brought that back up. I don't even know if he remembered that, but I brought it up and just said, look at the irony now. But it's these little seeds that are always kind of sown. So I guess in 2011 is when I launched a production company, One Umbrella Productions. And reason being, it was just to kind of, so many doors are shut. And again, if you're just going to keep on waiting for people to open the door, it may never happen. So I guess in the UK independent sort of circuit, there was a rise of people making their own stuff. So yeah, in 2011, prior to this, it was always on my mind. But yeah, in that particular year, I went to the Cannes Film Festival for the first time, and just, it was a chance meeting. Like, it was me and Ty Bankinson, fellow actor, who we had met in a project before. But yeah, we'd done about 10 days there. On the last day, we're in a restaurant with our suitcases, and we're talking. And this guy walks past, and he was like, "Oh," and he was from America. He was like, "Oh, where y'all from?" We're just, loving the accent, etc., kind of talking. So we're like, we really love to shoot something on this French backdrop. And he was like, "Well, yeah, I've got all my equipment with me." So we're like, really? And then we exchanged details, and was like, "Look, if you're serious, we'll come back and shoot something." And he was like, yeah, hit me up when you get back to London. So we got back to London. I reached out to him to see if he was 100% serious, and it turns out he was. So I quickly wrote something, put something together, and then, a couple of days later, we're back on the plane. And obviously France is relatively cheap because, it's only down the road, so to speak. And that's how we made our first production, Lost Words, which was, it was crazy turnaround. You learned so much just because you had to do it. Do you get what I'm saying? There was no kind of like pre-production or anything like that. As such, it was literally write it, get on the plane, shoot it. The same restaurant we met at, that's because that was like one of our favorite joints. So I went back in there, asked them if we could film. So we had to film it live. It was mad. So that was the introduction into the film journey.
So we know that
Yeah.
you went to secondary school, you went to a theatre school for your secondary school. Did you continue that in further education?
So further education, it's mad because it's such a small school. And I think straight after, when you leave at 16, the only options are go to, a lot of guys were going dance school at 16. I had no interest in dancing. Um, I haven't danced since. So it was like, wait till 18 to go drama school. But I was like, no, I don't really want to wait till 18. So I just did the normal route, went college and went uni. And I was around normal people for a little while. So at college, I did like just normal A levels. I think I did theatre as well, but I dropped it because it just wasn't, it was very theoretical. I didn't really think I was learning much. So I did like maths, English, and business. Yeah, but not doing much with those anymore. Well, English, still. Well, no, the maths, it was the A-level maths that killed me. So yeah, it was kind of like next steps of things to do. Like when I look back on it now, they all hold like places in my heart. Like there's no regrets doing them. But like, especially for college, because you went to kind of such a different school, you missed out on that kind of, I guess my experience of school was so different to a lot of my friends. But then they may think, oh wow, is that what you did? That's so interesting. Where I think, because you got to think at 11, primary school's my only memory of kind of normality. Then from 11 to 16, it's just a whole different world, a whole different pot of people, which, it has its pros and cons. Like I look back on it and think, yeah, as an adult, I'm able to relate to so many different people from different walks of life because of my experience so young. So I loved it in that sense. So when I finished college, then I thought I wanted to go into uni just to kind of have some sort of a backup, and because you're always told that it's an unstable industry, it's so hard, so competitive. So I just kind of went with the motions. So 21, I was like, I'm done with education, so I'm ready to just, like, drama school wasn't on my radar at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you stopped at 21 and you just went into the working world?
Yeah, pretty much a few office jobs and that, just to kind of keep the income, not keep it coming in, to begin the income, like start to make it income. And then I was just building on the side. So it, just kind of networking with people, getting in touch with old contacts, just to kind of get advice on, because it's different being handled as a child and then being an adult in the world, because as a child, everything's done for you.
Yeah.
So even down to spotlight, having your CV, your headshots. I had memories of, a headshot photographer always coming into school, taking it,
right.
Spotlight being done for you. But then there was a disconnect. No one kind of showed me that transition. I had to kind of find it out. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm there trying to get a Spotlight membership. I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm already on it. So it was just like.
You was a working child actor?
Yeah.
Will you tell us what theatre school you went to?
Sylvia Young.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, loved my time there. Like I said, it was different, and us as students all had, you can't really describe the bond that you have just being kind of, I think it was only about 200 of us in a school. Do you get what I'm saying? So in our year, there's about 20 something, as opposed to you go to other schools, people will be like, that's just a section of a year group.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So your parents really supported you. Did they see your talent for theatre for you to go? Did you ask to go to theatre school? What was your family dynamics, and where did that spark for going into theatre come from? What age was you?
Do you know what? It's a funny story, right? I was kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go to theatre school. So this is at the point of like choosing secondary schools. Right. Then all of a sudden my dad's like, all right, yeah, going to theatre school. I was like, what? He's like, you got to prepare a song, a dance. I'm like, what the heck? I just want to go to a school where everyone else is going. But and he had his own reasons for wanting to do that. It wasn't about necessarily seeing something within me. I think, my parents went through a split, and he saw drama as a way of kind of, developing your own personality and, kind of growing. I guess it was his way of therapy. Like, I don't know, but that was that. It was very random at the time. But as I had started it, the love grew from there. So yeah, that's my journey into it. And it's just, yeah, as you're kind of doing it, you're learning it, you start to then experience jobs and stuff like that, and it's just a whole new world. And yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah, so when I look back on it, it's funny. It wasn't like a, so in terms of that support and parents being supportive, yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, go do that.
Wow, that's really interesting. Um, what would you describe? So if I asked you, what do you do? What would you say now?
In one word, or just,
No, like if someone asks you, like, you know, they meet you, hey Jordan,
yeah,
you get into a conversation, so what do you do? What would you say?
yeah, that's another funny one because I do always struggle. You have to pick and think, all right, what hat am I wearing? But generally, like, still, I'm an actor.
Yeah,
I'm an actor and filmmaker.
right.
Um, I think the two careers, they're separate, but they're still under the same umbrella of
Mm.
industry. So I'm currently building my portfolio of work as a director, but I still haven't lost the passion of acting. So yeah, it's just really, those are my two main things. Also a PT and boxing coach on the side.
Okay. So was that your pivot when you thought, okay, I need something to, is your PT in boxing that another thing that you love? Is it, where does that come in? Is that something to make sure you've got something consistent or something to fall back on? Where does the PT in boxing come into it?
Yeah, so I guess as most performers know, it can be very unstable. So um it was another income stream with another love of mine. So physical activity has always been a big part of my life. I've always had an interest in combat sports. So then I always had friends, like, you end up kind of training with friends and people are asking you for tips or asking you for this and that. And it was on my mind for a long while just to go and get this qualification. So, a few years back I did it. Um, but I was very much just kind of doing the role
Mhm.
a while before that. But yeah, it's another love of mine. And one of my plans is to kind of merge the film world with combat sports, kind of going down that avenue of genre.
Mm.
But yeah.
I mean, I noticed in your film on Amazon Prime, What Would You Do? You very much started off with a bit of sparring with your fellow actor.
Yeah, with Jay Brown.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about your highlights and in your life and career to date?
Yeah, I guess one of the biggest highlights, I think, as I mentioned before, like creating One Umbrella Productions, just, and that first film, like I'll always hold it so dear to me because, like I said, it was just to get up and do it. It was no kind of, and it probably should have been the other way around of sit down, proper planning, but literally it was a whirlwind, like in that week of just kind of getting up, do it, execute, back home, learn how to edit. So everything's just learning on the go. So in terms of I hold that as one of the big highlights.
Mhm.
Um, every project I go into, like they all have such highs and lows and obstacles. So like even getting to the finish line of any project is a big highlight. And most recently, just being recognized for the work is a real humbling experience. Most recently, like I directed a film called Coffee,
Mhm.
which we released on YouTube. But that's doing a festival circuit. So that was in the American Black Film Festival, and we won um, a fan favorite award. And fan favorite, like obviously you got the awards from the jury and stuff like that. But fan favorite always resonates a lot with me because you're like, all right, cool, this is what is kind of widely received. So
Mm.
um that's one of the most recent highlights I could think of. But yeah, it's a journey, step by step. Just loving the journey.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm assuming fan favorite is support from fans, like you're getting support from people. It's not just some judges sitting behind a panel.
Yep,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So can we talk about funding? Because my challenge is, and it has been a challenge, like growing a business is, and acting at the same time, is having the money to build it. Like, I feel like I learned in life that acting is a business. It's very much a business. And just as with any other business, you need money to invest in yourself in order to maximize your chances of success. And when I realized that, I was like, right, I don't want to give up the acting. I want to go, still want to be using my skills. Let me start my own business. And then I realized, hold on, it's really hard to start a business on a shoestring. It's possible, but you need money to maximize your chances of success. You need to invest. How have you found that? I mean, a lot of us kind of, and I advocate now for go out and get a job to raise your income, to reinvest back into those things that you love. What can you share with us with what you've learned on raising funds for your films, for your projects, for your acting?
You know what? It's pretty much the same as you've been saying. It's that reinvesting and not being afraid to reinvest. My whole thing with the funding, there's a lot of waiting around. So I think there are some ideas which are a bit more high concept, which we'll have to probably explore the funding route. But while we build now, it's either self-funded or I find a bunch of individuals who are kind of on the same page and we co-fund together. So from What Would You Do, which we shot back in, I think 2018 it was. It was just a few like-minded producers because I was always having these conversations with people. Person over here will be saying, "Oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I want to create this film. I want to do that." So you bring everyone together and say, "All right, cool. Everyone's saying they want to do this. If we're serious, let's just cost it up and then split the cost." So that's the kind of model. You can call it like a small crowdfund kind of thing like that. But you know, it's the way I justify the cost. I just say, look, you're reinvesting in yourself. Like you've got a body of work, then you can then go out and kind of do what you need to do from there. But I think with anything, you need to build an audience, and you're not going to build the audience without the work. So it's like this, because the funding is it can be its own minefield, and there's so many times you hear people like they've got the ideas, but they're waiting on funding, and then the project may never happen. So yeah, I'm not saying I won't go for funding, but yeah, in terms of it not being a hindrance thus far, it's just been about being sensible with money, saving a portion, putting it back into, buying equipment, or, putting it towards a production and stuff like that. So, and I guess the circle around me as well, it's different people with different skills. So if you're not able to kind of contribute financially, it might be in post-production, it might be in providing equipment, and whatever it may be. So yeah.
Which makes sense when you said you kind of just get up and do it, rather than sit down and planning. Sometimes you just kind of need that drive when you do, don't you? You just have to have that drive to go out and make it, and you don't have to get it right. You don't have to get it right. You just have to get it going.
No,
that's
100%.
That stays with me. Yeah, you don't have to get it right. Just get it going. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start.
Yeah. Because you can be your biggest obstacle. I've been victim to it. It's just no production's ever going to be perfect. Do you get what I'm saying? And you always look at it. Well, for me anyway, I always look at my work and think, oh, I could have done this here, I could have done that better, I could have done that. But it's art, it's ongoing.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're trying your best, and your work does look good, you know, what I thoroughly enjoyed what I was watching this morning on Amazon Prime, and so your work looks good, but I also think there's a part of you, or there's an element of just people in general, just get it so it can be out there. Because sometimes it's just being able to say that I have this project here, I have this project here. I mean, obviously you don't want shabby work because people will check it out and you can ruin your reputation by it. But yeah, if you're giving it your best shot with the resources that you have, then absolutely go for it. Get out of your own way. So I really hope that helps and encourages some of our listeners.
But I guess just on from that used to hold me back a lot. Like, I guess in the emergence of web series, kind of in the early 2007, 8, 9, that sort of time.
Yeah.
I remember looking back on it thinking, no, man, the quality of this ain't great. And then not even wanting to get involved. But then I see some of those early actors who were involved in some of that stuff have now got amazing careers now. And obviously I try, it's not about looking at comparing careers or whatever, but it's just an observation where you're kind of, you know, people are just out there making stuff and it's out there. And if you're in a background, just sitting back and, you know, kind of waiting for that perfect moment, it could definitely be a hindrance. So it's in essence finding a balance. Like you said, you don't want to put out utter rubbish, but at the same time, waiting for that perfect moment probably will never come.
Yeah, and I feel like social media tricks us into thinking that there is a perfect moment will come. There'll be one morning where we'll wake up and all of a sudden the opportunity for this big opportunity will be there along with the big pay packet and you're sorted. And I feel like once upon a time I used to wait for those days, and I feel like sometimes even as actors, when you put your career in someone else's hands, you've got an agent, you're waiting for someone to give you that opportunity, and it's deceiving. I'm going to speak for myself here, but tell me if you relate. I feel like if you're building a legacy, that's something that I'm trying to do, is build a legacy with my own brand, something that's creating an impact, leaving an impact, and I want to get somewhere. But I've realized, no, I'm plodding along. It feels like I'm plodding along slowly, but I think this is what you have to do. I think this is building. I think, and the more that I read and the more that I listen to other successful stories, you hear that, you know, some people say, there's a saying, it takes 10 years to make an overnight success. It is taking the little opportunities and just putting work out there, and then eventually you turn around, you look behind you and you have all this work that you've created, and then that says something, that kind of lifts you up in time. And then going back to reinvesting, I feel like some people invest their money in clothing and holidays, and I feel like a lot of that I've not had as much as I would want to. Like, the top that I'm wearing now has bubbles on it, and I'm like, I need a new top, but my money goes in different places. It often does go back into Dramed, or I'll, you know, put it towards some headshots or something. Therefore, you don't see the drip, as the teenagers are calling it now. Would you, does that, I mean, is not, and no pressure, if your experience is different, please share it. But yeah, like, does that sound true somewhat to you?
Yeah, in terms of it's all for me, it's just always been about balance. Like I'd always, it depends on where your passion really is. Do you get what I'm saying? Like for me, and I was speaking to my niece a couple of nights ago, and she was talking about if she had £5,000, she will be spending it on. She's young, she's about 13. If she had £5,000, she'll be buying this trainers, that trainers. She was like, yeah, she wants, by the end of the year, she wants 3 pairs of Jordans, 2 Converse, this and that. I'm like, what the heck? What are you gonna do with all these trainers? And she's quite driven, and she's very entrepreneurial for her age. So I was saying to her, look, if you're saying that you've got this drive for business as well, then why would you might want to kind of re-look at the stuff that you're saying that you need versus the stuff that you want. But she was like, oh, but it's over a year, so it's not that much. This means what? You don't need all this stuff, and just trying to recalibrate her mind. And she thought I was being harsh with her, saying, when you were young, didn't you want stuff? I'm like, yeah, but I'm trying to give you a different perspective now that I'm older and can see it. But it's all the different stuff that we prioritize. So in the same breath, I'm very much an advocate for living. Like, do all the holidays, do all the life stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? There's a lot of opportunities that pass people by. Even stuff as basic as relationships. Do you know what I mean? You could be so focused on the business side of things where you're just like, you're passing up a lot of important life stuff. So I say live, but at the same time, balance it with your I was going to say creative goals, but no, your business goals and your creative goals. So yeah, like you, it's income that comes in. You think you got to get headshots done, you got to get equipment, you got to, it just depends on how bad you want it and what you place as important. One of my co-producers and our cinematographer, Lee Daly, I was speaking to him recently about just the journey that we're currently on. Like, none of us went to film school. Like, the exposure to film was like being on set. It's not like it came from nowhere, but at the same time, it's your biggest school is learning on the job. So because I haven't gone to film school, I'm able to surround myself with industry professionals, like pull everyone together and work on a project. So even if that project doesn't see the light of day, the fact that you've started, you finished it, taken it through to post-production, and completed it, those are, what do they say on the computer games? EXP points. Do you get what I'm saying? Your experience points. Because Lost Words, funny, that nearly never saw the light of day.
Really?
That's an example of it. Do you get what I'm saying? That there were so many challenges with it. From people, on shoot days, leaving set before we're finished. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, on certain departments. I won't go too much into it, but yeah, it's some major challenges. So by the time we hit post-production, speaking of, kind of going back to what we were saying about perfection, I'm looking at it thinking, boy, I don't know, guys. I don't know if this is going out with, because my name attached to it at the end of the day. But so there's the balance there. As you're saying, I was able to get it to a point that I was happy with, but I don't know if anyone sits back and looks at their work and thinks, yeah, that's perfection. I don't think that exists anyway, but there is a certain point where I would rather not put it out than put it out. But nonetheless, you still learn a lot from each experience.
I love that, what you said. I feel like that could be the title of this podcast episode, something about going to get your experience points.
Yep.
Jordan Pitt.
Get the EXPs, but yeah, like
ESPs. What does the S stand for?
The S. What S? Sorry.
Is it EXP or ESP? Did you say?
Sorry, EXP, like experience.
EXP. Okay, EXP. Okay.
So usually on the game, like on some games, we'll say EXP level 1 or EXP level 2, but it's just your experience through the game. So yeah.
Okay. How many failed projects have you had then? Have you had failed projects? Have you had projects that have not seen the light of day?
And we've managed to put each one out. So no, they've all seen the light of day. It was just the kind of danger of it not. I've got like scripts I haven't taken to production, and again, I just see some of those as experience with developing as a writer, and kind of finding myself and learning the skill of writing. So yeah, and I guess there's scenes I've shot and stuff like that, but in terms of fully fledged productions, most of them have, that I can think of, you're taking me back. Yeah, there's things you shot with no intention of necessarily going out there, if that makes sense, just as an exercise.
Yeah.
But each production has definitely presented a unique set of challenges each time. So
and Coffee, Lost Words, and What Would You Do? Were you the writer as well? Did you?
I wrote What Would You Do?
Yeah.
Nia Date Evans, he wrote Coffee and he stars in it as well. Lost Words I wrote. Yeah.
Okay. And where do your ideas come from? Can you tell us a bit about your ideas process, please?
Mine are really random, because it's funny, I don't put myself out there as a writer simply because I believe as a writer, you should be able to kind of commission me and say, be able to write to spec in essence. But for me, I just kind of write what comes to me. And yeah, just the way it's been, it's been very random. An idea will come and then I'm really urged to kind of do it, if that makes sense. Obviously, Lost Words was pretty much more pressured because it was like, this needs to be done, but done now. So you're racking your brain, what can I write about? What can I write about? Da, da, da. What Would You Do specifically was sparked by a conversation about, what would you do if you found X amount of da, da, da on the street? What would you do? And it's just me and a couple of the boys just kind of chopping it up over dinner, having this nonsensical conversation. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this into a film. And none of them are in the film industry. So it was just it was just a fun experimental piece. I have another one called Ambition to Live, which was directed by Fraser Ayres of Triforce. And I remember that's pretty much a non-dialogue film, and that just came to me visually. I remember writing it in the iPhone notes, and I just had like a series of visual ideas that just came together. I was like, yep, I need something to write it on now, and just started writing, and then you just kind of finesse it afterwards.
Wow.
Once it's there. Yeah, that's kind of my process anyway. So the idea has to be there, and you just kind of I don't know. It comes from different influences, I guess.
Okay. So you get the idea. Is the whole idea there, or do you pick up a pen and a paper and write? Do you brainstorm? Do you bullet point, or do you go straight to the laptop?
The early writer in me would just start writing, but that wasn't the best method because you could get halfway and think, what am I writing about?
Writing or typing? Would you type it? Because for me, the process of writing is I brainstorm, it's pen to paper, and then it will start being typing up. What's your process?
I used to do pen and paper, and then have to go and type. But then I quickly realized, look, this isn't what's the word, the best use of time. So then that's when you get one of the programs. I use Final Draft and write on there. But in terms of brainstorming and stuff like that, that would be pen and paper. I'm old school, so that will never leave. Even when I get scripts, it's pretty much, to be honest, I've just converted to the iPad and the pen.
Okay.
You go, I'm saying you can write, but it's still the act of writing, highlighting digits, and highlighting. Although it's digital, but it's still in a handwritten fashion, and you're not having to faff around with lots of paper. But I still need to kind of, as opposed to typing, I'm still very much spidergram, different ideas that come and just kind of annotating the page. So that's for me. But before it was just kind of start writing the story in script form, where now now I'd much more plan the idea and kind of flesh it out before, and kind of write it in old school story form, if you know what I mean by that. You know, in school where you're just like, once upon a time, this happened, that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, in that sort of form.
Okay, that's really interesting. And just for our listeners, I mean, like you touched on a program called Final Draft. Is that for any budding writers? That's the program. What does it do?
That's a screenwriting program.
Okay.
In particular, and it will format it for you, so you don't have to worry about the format. All you got to do is kind of, you might write the action of the scene, press enter, character name, enter, dialogue. So it kind of automates it all for you, so you don't need to worry about what format your script should be in or anything like that. There are other softwares out there, but that's my weapon of choice.
Okay, so we will link that in the show notes. And how about planning? Like, what do you have a plan for 2022? So yeah, time of recording this, like we're the first conversation that we're having it's the 4th of January 2022, so we've just got into the new year. Do you plan ahead? Do you have a vision for what you want your year to look like?
Yeah, so there's a lot to kind of get on board. There's a lot, like the team, we need to have a meeting, our top of the year meeting, but we need to decide on what productions we want to push out this year. So we've got a few more short ideas that we want to put out, and just kind of get onto the table of feature film. Still too early to talk about any of the ideas, but yeah, that's kind of what we're moving towards. Also, we got the Retro Lounge show, which is a chat show against the backdrop of retro gaming.
So that sounds so. I mean, yes, I've seen a few of your clips on Instagram, and you look like you're having some really juicy conversations.
Yeah. So, and again, that was an idea that we had probably back in 2017.
Really?
So when you talk about like pressing the button and stuff, it's the ideas that come, go. But yeah, that's just a creative outlet to produce something that's a bit different, away from, it's more kind of TV orientated, but put it out on YouTube. And yeah, just, I believe I grew up as a gamer, but as you get into the adult world, I personally don't have so much time to game, but the gaming landscape has changed so much where I think it's less fun now.
I agree.
Like everyone's online.
Yeah, I want Sonic, Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, that's it. So we try and take it back. We take it back to that era there.
Love
so while playing all of these kind of old school classics, while just having kind of fun conversation just about anything that we choose, really. So launched that back in June, 10 episodes in. So we're just kind of, we've got a lot of stuff to kind of plan around that, and this year's schedule with shooting that.
Oh my God, I'd love to be a part of that.
We're gonna have you down though. Yeah.
Do you know what? I love the concept, because it's like when you're playing a game, you can, good conversations do take place when you're playing a game, but you're not really thinking about the conversation because you're thinking about the game. So it's like you tap into the real answers, like the one where you don't have to think so much thought to be polite because you've got another focus on winning the game. Like, I reckon that
you know what, and as you say that, right, that was one of the biggest challenges, because you think you don't even I didn't put any thought into that. So as we're trying to like host the show, we're playing the game, and then me and my co-host, that was the basis of it. We're really competitive with the games, so we're actually trying to win. So the conversation was then taking a back seat, and it's just like, oh yeah, what are we talking about again? But it's difficult to marry up, and they probably get the better of me sometimes when I'm then trying to lead the conversation. I'm getting beaten up on Street Fighter, and I'm like, nah, this ain't the real representation. When I got my concentration cap on, I'm wiping the floor with these guys.
My gosh. No, and then I don't necessarily class myself as a person who can do more than one thing well at one time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I cannot hold down a conversation whilst cooking or something like that. Like, so I probably would find that actually quite hard. I think you'd have to be a person that can multitask quite well.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I used to be, or like my multitasking, I already multitask so much in life with work, business, acting, children, raising a family, that when it comes to anything else, my brain's not there.
Oh man.
But it's a
You're
brilliant
allowed.
concept.
You're like
Yeah.
a superwoman, so yeah, you're allowed.
I'd love to see that on TV or
Yeah.
something. Like, hold tight to that idea so you can pitch it.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing where we're definitely exploring different kind of directions we want to take it in. Again, growing up in that particular era of gaming, kind of like mid-90s, there were a lot of TV shows. Even now, they've re-released. I don't know if you remember Games Master, which was like a big kind of game show in the 90s. They've just revamped it. I think it's on E4, or I need to catch it anyway. But that just shows you that it's no new ideas they're bringing. They're revamping all of the stuff, and that show and Games World was a big inspiration for it in terms of putting our own spin on it. But yeah, it's just, there's a whole generation of gamers who sit in my category who would love to be gamers but don't have the time. So you got people who do have the time, people who just still love gaming, and like, because even like my little nieces and nephews, they wouldn't consider me a gamer because they don't really like see me in that capacity. But whenever it's Christmas time, where you have the time kind of guilt free, I'm like let me dust off the PS. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And I can totally see it on some kind of Channel 4 type show. Some easy watching. Can you tell us your big picture goals? So Jordan 86 or a ripe old age, it doesn't have to be 86, whatever number you can imagine. Like, how is he feeling? Where are you? What are you feeling? And what have you achieved?
Somewhere sunny. I'm done with all this grey weather. But if we're gonna go with 86, I still want to be active. Do you get what I'm saying? Physically, I see myself kind of slowing down out of choice. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Only doing not having to do all the other stuff for necessity, and being able to kind of build an empire where all my sole earnings can come from what I love doing, from the entertainment world. I'm close to it. Do you get what I'm saying? But yeah, at 86, I would have fully made that a reality. Being able to kind of produce bodies of work for both feature films, high-end TV, and just being able to kind of establish myself here on home territory, and and across the world, just being known for the body of work I've been able to produce. But like I said, I don't necessarily want to stop. I'll still be kind of working on the things that I love doing, producing work, providing opportunity for the next gen coming up, just in that space. But yeah, like I said, I still want to be very much active, still in the gym, still training. That's how I see it.
Do you have any books, anything, like what inspires you? What fills your cup? Podcasts, it doesn't have to be anything on any particular topic, just something that fills your cup, brings you joy, you learn from.
I'm more visual, so I like films. Podcasts, there's a handful of podcasts I listen to, but that's just kind of for MMA side of stuff, mixed martial arts. That's just like what I like to listen to. So there's a few fighters who have their own podcasts. But yeah, in terms of inspiration, just films, TV shows. I rewatched The Sopranos over and over. I think, James Gandolfini is masterful in that. Every time I watch it, I'm just like, even the whole cast. It's just it's a lecture in itself, a seminar in itself. Yeah, I mean, I learned so much. And there's a lot of other kind of older films which are like my go-to films. I like that genre just because of the story, like that kind of gangster genre. Not because of the violent content, but just it's often about the story of family, loyalty, and just kind of seeing how that unfolds and the different elements that they put into it. So in terms of the art of storytelling, I'm always kind of in awe and just looking and kind of studying it and just thinking, trying to get the creative juices flowing in that aspect. What was the other question? Sorry.
like do you have a book, like a role model? I mean, for me, I love spiritual books. I mean, I quite spiritual book, but I love reading like self-help and stuff like that. And is there anything that you like reading on that topic? Or
so in terms of that spirituality, for me, it's the Bible. Every morning I'm in that, and that's my chosen path.
Interesting.
It's kind of just using that as my guideline to kind of enrich my life and kind of develop in that way, and just looking inwards and seeing how I'm developing as a person, how I'm treating others, and how I'm walking. You get what I'm saying? So that's my go-to book. I was reading a book called Humility. That's a book that I've been in for a little while, and again, it just makes you do a lot of kind of inward searching, inward looking, and kind of identifying areas of your life where that might need some fine tuning. Do you get what I'm saying? Oftentimes we get into a lot of situations and we look at the other person did this, the other person did that, without any kind of looking at how we played a part in situations, or we could have done better, or
absolutely.
Do you get what I'm saying? So
that's something that I'm trying to, and for a while, take full responsibility for, like never putting the blame outside myself, in, normal day-to-day life stuff. And always ask myself, how did I contribute to this situation? What part did I play in this? And how did I, just anything, looking at, that's all you can control, isn't it, really, yourself?
100%. But it takes a while, man. It's hard, isn't it?
It does. And before we started recording, you said that you're an early riser, so that helped me kind of build a picture as to what your morning looks like. You being an early riser, saying that you read the Bible every morning, it sounds like you have that space in the morning to yourself and to self-reflect before your day starts.
Inspiration for lost words. I think at the time I was doing kind of a lot of inward searching and teaching on forgiveness. Just a theme of forgiveness in general, like kind of inspired from the Bible, like how quick we should be to forgive others. Just in the same way, if we do wrong, we're quick to ask for forgiveness from others. So that was a central theme I wanted to kind of explore in that instance, and I let people watch it and kind of see it. But it's that kind of letting the past hold you back, and letting the past hold you back. But then we don't know how long we've got. Like anything can happen at any time. Do you get what I'm saying? Tomorrow's not guaranteed. The next minute's not guaranteed, and how often we take that for granted. So that's kind of what I wanted to explore at the time. But like I said, that particular project forced me to think very quickly about putting something together. And at that time, that was the thing that ran true. So I guess to answer your earlier question about where I draw inspiration from, literally it is from what is going on at that particular time. There's not one thing I can identify and say I draw inspiration from this in particular or that in particular. It's just it sounds very cliche and all kind of airy fairy, but yeah, it's something within you that just like is a click. And yeah, there's you're just led by something. It happens or it doesn't. But that's why if you were to come to me and say, look, I've got this piece I want you to write, I'd probably turn it down. It not guaranteed, but it's either I would have the impetus to write it or not. But yeah, for writing, you got to be in a particular space. I think I much more enjoy I do enjoy the writing process, but yeah, I enjoy it also kind of if you had a particular script and kind of working on enhancing that script and bringing it to life. It's much more my thing. But yeah. How
can we support you? Where can we support you? Where can we follow you? What can we look out for? Let us know.
So yeah, catch me on IG, Instagram, Jordan Pitt Official. Also check out oneumbrellaproductions.com. That's the production company, and you can catch us on the socials via that as well. Also check out the Retro Lounge show. Yeah, like, subscribe, support, comment on the videos, join the conversation. You can get us on IG as well for that, and yeah, just keep plugged into those.
We will. And to our listeners, you can find all those links in the show notes. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the Performers Who Pivot podcast and sharing your experience and your wisdom. My takeaways are definitely experience points, but there's quite a few that I've jotted down here. So I will highlight my takeaways in the show notes as well. But yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing your work, seeing more productions, experiencing your podcast. I shall definitely be signing and subscribing as soon as I come off this. So thank you to our listeners as well. And we will see you on the next show. Bye for now.